Exactly how accurate are Marmalead's predictive numbers? Why are long-tail keywords so important? I've been using Marmalead and my sales are still down. What do I do? Is it possible, and how do I get an A in Marmalead? What do I do with keywords that are longer than Etsy's 20-character tag limit? Stick around as we tackle these questions in this episode of The Jam. What is up? Welcome to The Jam. I am Gordon from Marmalead.
I am Richie from Marmalead.
I'm Jade from Marmalead.
And I'm Lisa from Marmalead.
So what are we talking about today, Lisa?
So today we're going to be talking through the top 5 questions that I see in our inboxes, in our Q&A sessions. We're just going to chat through a few of those that are pretty specific to 2020, but of course there's going to be a little bit of crossover too from questions we hear from year to year. But basically the top 5 questions of 2020. So to get things started, what I have here as number 1 is, why didn't the predictive data make sense in 2020? So we got a lot of questions about our predictive data, and I think it's kind of obvious that this year was different from some of the past years that we've had. But the first thing I want to say is that a lot of the data actually did remain really accurate and chugged along per usual. But it is true also that no one could have predicted COVID or its exact effect on the Etsy marketplace, or on any marketplace for that matter, the economy overall. What we saw happen was that a lot of Etsy sellers actually sort of boomed. They did amazing. And then we also saw that some of those sellers really suffered, or that some sellers really suffered. Again, across the board, I think some folks saw huge booms and some just didn't. I mean, not just in Etsy, I would say across the board, that's sort of what happened. Mm-hmm. So as it pertains to our data, our predictive data specifically, the numbers for each keyword in the predictive data are really heavily influenced by what happened in terms of engagement over the preceding 12 months. So let's take a word like face mask. So in the 12 months prior to March of 2020, that keyword didn't get a ton of action. It didn't get a ton of engagement, right?
Nope,
it just
never thought of it.
Yep.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, maybe during like Halloween, but for a completely different reason.
Right.
Right.
So
or like a cosmetic face mask or something like that.
Yes,
yes,
right.
Yeah.
Totally. And then COVID happens, and all of a sudden there's a nationwide shortage of PPE. There are all of a sudden mask mandates happening all over the place. So people are scrambling. And people on Etsy who could pivot, they did pivot. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we saw engagement for that keyword
skyrocket.
I mean, skyrocket. It did things that lots of other trends don't even reach. Yeah. And so, and there was nothing in the previous data that could have predicted that, right? It wasn't like we've got a pandemic piece of the algorithm just making sure that everybody's taking their flu shots, and that nothing there, that isn't built into the algorithm for Etsy's keywords. So basically there just wasn't anything that could predict that sort of thing. So what it ended up being for us was really sort of a teachable moment with a lot of our clients who are writing in and saying like, well, so why doesn't this make sense? Ultimately, our advice is always going to be, but especially after 2020, when you're using predictive data, you're definitely going to have to combine that with, I got this term from Gordon, what I like to call some common sense noodling, or he always says he's going to noodle on something. And so you got to kind of combine some common sense when you're using predictive data. Are there extraordinary circumstances involved? If there are, then we would recommend that you start also really taking short-term data into account, so that you can gain, some better insight about what's going on in the moment. And then maybe from there you can extrapolate some of that data moving forward. But really, if there are extraordinary circumstances, use some common sense. Understand that if there was nothing to predict what's going on, then the predictive data, especially with regard to those context-specific things, you're going to need to sort of use some short-term data as well in order to really gain some insight about what's going on. I will say also that as a company, we take a lot of pride in the accuracy of all our data, including our predictive data. For us, across thousands and thousands of keywords, our predictive data is sitting at a 95% accuracy point, and sometimes even higher. So it is still incredibly useful information. You just want to remember that if there are extraordinary circumstances, definitely noodle. Do a little extra noodling where that predictive data is concerned. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's exactly why we show the data that we do inside of Marmalead, so that we're not just showing you a search number or an engagement number and saying, hey, this is what it's going to be over the next 30 days. We show that engagement over time chart so that you can use that as a seller when you're looking for keywords and really understanding how that keyword has changed over time. Mm-hmm. And so when you see what the search and engagement prediction are, check that chart and look down and just do like a little gut check and look at it and see like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I think that that's about where it would be based on what we've seen before. And I mean, it's something that people run into with the stock market all the time.
Yes,
you always see, historical results do not predict future data or whatever, and
future
it's like,
returns, yes.
It's kind of the same thing. You can't necessarily predict where the markets are going to move.
Yep.
Right. Because there's those external circumstances, right? So, why didn't wedding stuff perform as well this year? Well, in-person events got hammered this year. Right. So that is a huge difference. And just like your stock market example, look at all the stuff that should have kept going up. Cruise lines, how'd they do? You could have invested in those in 2019 and be like, ooh, 2020 is going to be an awesome year. Look at this historical data. It's going to go fantastic. How'd that work out? Not so well.
Yeah. I mean, in the reverse, like furniture markets, 2019, pretty normal year. 2020, everybody's at home. They're like, man, we need a new couch. All of a sudden, you can't, you order a couch and they're like, that's great. It'll be 6 months before we can get your couch to you. So it's just, nobody could have predicted that stuff, right? In 2019, you want a couch, you go get a couch. Yeah. In 2020, you wait 6 months for your couch. It's just, there are things that no one could have predicted. There are things that historical data just simply can't tell us. Is it still incredibly useful information? 100%. Should you disregard it because something didn't make sense to you because of the extraordinary circumstances that happened this year? No, please don't. We just invite you to, I'm just going to say it again, keep noodling, y'all.
Yes.
So question number 2, why are long tail keywords so darn important?
Okay.
Why, when I go to do my keyword research and I find a keyword that's got fantastic searches and engagement, how come I can't use that one because it's not long tail? Why do I have to consider that stinking long tail little thing that tells me that this keyword might not be as great as I think it is?
Gordon, I see how your shoulders creeped up around your ears there, and I would like to say that is probably how 99% of our people feel when they're trying to learn the concept. And when I first started with Marmalead and was learning a little bit about SEO and long tails was something that I was confused about in the beginning too. But really, it's not too difficult, so we'll try and break it down a little bit here. Long tails are important because they help you zero in on specific audiences that are looking for products like yours, okay? So if you're using long tails, or if you're not using long tails, the chances are pretty high that you're lost in a pretty big sea of competition, because that means you're probably using broad keywords. Ultimately, long tail keywords are a strategy to cut through a lot of that competition, right? By using keywords that are more specific, more descriptive, you're appealing to customers who are closer to making a buying decision. Mm-hmm. Instead of, like, if you're using broad keywords, those keywords are being used by customers who are more at the beginning of their search process. They're not totally sure what they're looking for just yet, right? Essentially, long tail keywords, like Gordon was saying, maybe if you're using broad keywords, you're totally stoked about the engagement level of those keywords. But if you look at the competition, it's probably really high there as well. Long tail keywords do generally see lower numbers of engagement because by definition, you're focusing on a niche, a smaller group of people, right? But that engagement that you are seeing for those keywords is more focused, and it's cutting out a lot of the noise that you'd be seeing from like the engagement number for a broad keyword. So long tails are important because they actually help you cut through the competition. So that's that's kind of what makes them important. Definitely, I'm sure the guys have something to add. I know Richie has a pretty cool way of explaining long tails too. So
Yeah, absolutely. With buyer intent and where they are in the funnel, long tail keywords has really narrowed it down. So imagine if we're trying to, do some SEO for Marmalead, and we're software, but we're a very specific type of software. Now, if we just threw out there and all of our stuff and we're like, hey, the keyword we want to go for is software, that's not going to work out so well, right? You've got big companies like IBM searching for software, but very specific kinds of software that we're not a fit for. And then you've got, even if you narrow it down to Etsy sellers, like, hey, we're software for Etsy sellers. That's niche enough. Not really. What if they're looking for photo editing software? What if they're looking for bookkeeping software? Basically everything but us. I'm not even sure that anybody would be looking for Etsy SEO software, because that's not even what people are looking for when they find us. They just want better Etsy SEO, if they even know that, but they really want more sales with Etsy, and we're an avenue to that. So that'd be one way of kind of looking at it that I hope makes sense.
yes.
And that's the same kind of thing. I mean, if you're just like clothing, okay, well, what kind of clothing? You're looking for like a parka, or are you looking for, shorts?
A bathing suit.
A bathing suit, yeah.
Different.
Totally different things, yes. And the intent is going to be totally different.
Yeah. Which is, what long tails actually do is help you figure out, and you have to get the research to do this, or do the research to get there, but it's helping you figure out which keywords your customers are actually using to search to find products like yours. Whereas a broad keyword isn't actually the keyword that they're using to find the product exactly like yours. The long tail keyword is the search that they're doing to find a product that's exactly like yours.
Yeah.
So
Here's
that
another way.
Yeah.
I was going to say, here's another way to put it. Imagine you're explaining it to a friend that says, hey, I'm running to the store. Do you need anything? And you're like, oh yeah, clothes. And it's like, wait, okay, cool. Like,
kind of
what should I bring you back? Versus like, hey, I need a couple pairs of black socks.
Yes.
Now, that's enough to run with, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I could use a couple pairs of black socks and like, here's my size. Cool, I can do that. But
even then,
if you just,
do you want knee socks? Do you want running socks? Do you want so even then you could niche down from there.
absolutely, you could still get there and you're like, okay, I got to phone a friend. Hey, so there's different kinds of black socks in your size. What did you want? But it's still so much closer. At least narrows it down. You know where in the store you're going, as opposed to, hey, bring me back some clothes.
Yes. 100%.
Right. And are fewer people looking for black no-show dress socks? Yes, but they're the ones that are closer to the sale. So not only would you be getting the click, but you'd be getting the sale from that, as opposed to the people that are starting their search with just socks or dress socks. They're going to be clicking around a bunch, but they're not quite ready to make a purchase yet.
Yep. And so often people will write in with that exact question, like basically, but there's this keyword over here that has such great engagement. And it's almost like they get so blinded by that engagement number that they forget to look at the competition number. And we always describe search and engagement and competition as sort of being at two ends of a spectrum where you need to try and find that balance in the middle. And long tail keywords is a way to find that balance. Yes, you're going to lose some search and engagement because by definition, again, like I said before, you're focused on a smaller group of people, but that engagement is more focused and more targeted and more valuable overall. So that's why long tail keywords are important.
So question number 3, I've used your tools and I'm still not making any sales. What do I do?
So we do get this question from time to time. And my first response is, are you playing the long game or are you playing the short game? And I would say the top 2 reasons why we hear this from sellers is 1, they're expecting overnight success, or 2, they expect the tools to do the work for them. So let's go ahead and kind of talk through both of those. The first thing, the expectation of overnight success. I guess what I'll say here, I don't think that overnight success, I think it really shouldn't be an expectation, because it really just isn't the way, I would say that 99.9% of businesses
Across the board.
work
Yeah,
or
it
function.
doesn't matter if
It's a
you're
myth.
a brick and mortar or usually if you just open your doors, you're not gonna
If you
see overnight success that fast.
if you go into it expecting overnight success, chances are there will be some disappointment. We tell customers on a regular basis that really it takes 2 to 4 weeks. That's pretty average for your first round of testing a really well-researched batch of keywords, right? And that 2 to 4 weeks may not even include the time it took you to dig in and do that research. It's just once you've applied them to sort of see where you're going to fall in a regular search rhythm, right? An SEO strategy, an Etsy SEO strategy is insanely beneficial. But it is something that you build. And that build time, it does take some time. Is it easier with a set of tools? 100%. Is it more efficient with a set of tools? Definitely. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it doesn't take time. I'm not going to tell you that there's never any trial and error involved. There is, and this is a business, and it's going to take some time and effort, and so don't expect overnight success. If it happens, that's incredible. But walking into it with that expectation will likely lead to disappointment. So that I think is the first reason why people tend to feel like, okay, what's happening? Nothing's happening for me. It's because they're expecting success a little too quickly. The second piece of that expectation that the tools are going to do the work for you. Again, there's a lot of work in creating a really good organic Etsy SEO strategy. And again, it is much easier with the tools than without, but we can't do that research for you, right? Every Etsy shop is different. And we can't tell you which keywords are best for you. We can't tell you which keywords are going to fit your target market the best. We can definitely tell you how to apply those keywords. We can tell you what Etsy's algorithm likes to see. We can tell you how they like to see things structured. But at the end of the day, no one knows your business and your target audience like you do. So it is going to be up to you to define and to pursue those customers. And you're going to do that, like we mentioned just before, by choosing keywords that they're using to find products like yours in the marketplace. Yeah. So, yeah, and you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say one more thing that you probably want to consider as a seller is if you're coming into Marmalead and you're finding a whole slew of good keywords, but you change all of your listings at once, you're also going to have a bad time. You're not going to have overnight success with that. And it's going to take an even longer period of time probably to start seeing the results from those changes than if you kind of strategically went through and just changed a few listings a day, a handful of listings here and there, and not made huge sweeping changes to your listings. You build up keyword credit inside of Etsy. And so even if you are replacing those keywords with better keywords that you found that will work better for you in the long run, you now have to start at ground zero for keyword credit on those new keywords that you've put on your listings. And it takes time to build up results from those.
Yeah, you make an excellent point there. Actually, that's one of the things that we cover in our training video. We cover it in all of our Q&A sessions. And unfortunately, the reason why it isn't a question is because sometimes too many people jump in and do it ahead of time. And so by the time they get to me, it's more of an emergency than a question. Yeah. So excellent point. It's something that we cover, but it's great to cover it again here. Please do not change everything all at once. Start with a handful of your lowest performing listings. Really work to strategize with those first. Once you hit on a strategy that works, that's when you can start to move that strategy wider out across your shop. I may sound a little robotic when saying that because I say it so often, but it's important. And so if there is one mantra that you're sort of repeating to yourself, or one of many that you're going to repeat to yourself, it's that you don't want to change everything all at once and you do want to give it some time. The last thing I'll say
email
here,
to Lisa. Don't be the next email to Lisa that says, "Hey, I changed everything in my shop."
Yeah, don't be Monday's emergency for me, for sure. Yeah. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Kind of to go back to that idea of not really putting in the work, so to speak. More times than I care to count, I get emails in that say it's not working for me. So I'll be like, okay, let's calm down. Let's take it a step at a time. And I jump in. I start taking a look at what they're doing, the work they're doing, and I'll see that maybe they've completed like 10 searches in 2 weeks, right? And for most markets, that's barely scratching the surface. Like, especially in these competitive markets, it's barely scratching the surface, if it even is a scratch. And you're gonna have to really dig in and find ways to niche down. I know we were talking about this just a second ago. You really got to work on finding ways to niche down and finding those keywords that your target audience is actually using. But again, Marmalead is going to be so helpful in that endeavor. Yes, it's going to take effort, but yes, the effort is going to be more focused, more beneficial if you have a set of tools than without. So.
Yep. And if you're confused, if you don't know where to start, and if you're feeling like you're not getting the results that you want, but you're one of the people that have only maybe done 10 searches inside of Marmalead, a good place to start is the webinar that Lisa mentioned earlier. So we'll put a link in the description down below. That's an on-demand webinar. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a fantastic place to start and get a good understanding of how to use the tools and what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Beyond that, if you get in there and you have questions, reach out to us.
Yeah.
support@marmalead.com. And Lisa or Kevs is happy to help you guys figure out, what you might be missing or what might be confusing or how you can best be using the tools for your situation.
And we have 2 live Q&As a week that we'd love to have you jump into as well. If you've been with us for a year and there's some question that you have and you're like, oh, it's a beginner webinar or training video on beginner Q&A, no, feel free to jump into the Q&A and ask your question. If for some reason you've stumped me in the Q&A, I have Richie and Gordon. I can reach out to them. They'll be able to help. We are here to answer those questions. So if it's today, if it's a year from now, it doesn't matter to us. We would love to have the opportunity to answer your question and to make sure that what we're trying to teach you makes sense. We understand that there's 1,000 different ways to explain things. And so we want to make sure, we were just talking about this a few seconds ago, we want to make sure that we, if I can't answer your question in a way that makes sense, I'll reach out to somebody who can explain it slightly differently and have them, we do this a lot. I'll reach out to Gordon and be like, I don't know what to say here. And he'll be like, oh, okay, break it down this way. So we're able to do that. And that's part of joining our community at Marmalead, is getting all of us working together to help you get where you want to go in terms of your understanding of SEO and your ability to build a strategy that's going to work for you.
I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to the Jam by Marmalead. Marmalead helps guide you to keywords that real Etsy shoppers are using, so you can get more sales doing what you love. Check out Marmalead in the link in the description or at marmalead.com.
So how do I get an A, Lisa?
Huh?
How do I get an A on my listings?
Oh, how?
It's driving me crazy. I'm in Marmalead and I see all my grades and I don't have any A's. I have B's, C's, maybe D's. How do I get an A?
Okay.
What do I do?
Okay.
Help me.
Help. That's actually, I'm pretty sure you just read one of our emails, so let's go ahead and. So, the factors that you're going to work on to change your grade are the factors in your SEO factors box on your listing details page. So a lot of times folks will be like, I don't have 10 photos. Is that what's throwing me off? No, it's only the factors in your listing details or in your SEO factors box on your listing details page that are influencing your grade in Marmalead. So we definitely go over these in detail in that training video that Gordon was just talking about. We also have at least one blog, I think more than one, but I know we have at least one blog and jam dedicated to the subject of grading and how it fits into, our overall framework and the data that we offer, the tools that we offer. So I'm not going to cover that in detail, but what I do want to say is that I know for so many folks, grades are really, really important, and it's hard for them to see past anything less than an A. And so what I'm here to tell you is that thought process actually might not be the best use of your time and energy. Yes, it's incredibly important to work towards getting better grades. But it's also important to understand that your grade isn't the only piece of the puzzle that we're trying to present to you, the only piece that matters. So our advice is that once you understand the factors that go into your grades, right, those factors that I was just explaining, that's step one. And then you want to understand how each of those factors are impacting your grade for that listing. And again, we offer a lot of content to help you understand those things. So check out that blog, check out the training webinar. But once you understand those things, then you want to work with your grades on basically that 80-20 principle, right? Get them to a decent place by researching out and applying good keywords. 80% of the work. If you've researched out keywords that are good for you and for your audience, for your listing, and you've applied those well, that's 80% of the work. Then wait and see, right? Wait and see what works, wait and see what doesn't, and spend that last 20% doing the tweaks, right? Tweak things here, tweak things there. Once you've gotten some what I would say is real world feedback from like your shop stats, on your listing performance, on the keyword, on how those keywords are performing for you, if they're bringing in movement, if they're not, then go back and tweak things from there. So how do you get an A grade? The fast answer to that is that you're going to work with or manipulate those factors in the SEO factors box on your listing details page. Things like using all of your tags, things like making sure you have a decent percentage of long tail focused keywords and long tail tags. Those are the things you're going to mess with to change your grade, but try not to be too focused on just getting an A. Remember that 80-20 principle, and spend that last 20% really sort of finessing things once you've got some real world feedback from your shop stats.
Yeah, because if you have a grade, if you have a C and it's doing amazing and you go in and you change a bunch of stuff just to get an A, don't do that.
Yeah.
Let it perform. Let it do its thing. If it's working for you, let it continue to do that. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
Use all the other stuff to, like you said, finesse it, make other things really good, but do not change that listing that's a C just because it's a C if it's working for you.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Yep.
Yeah, 100% agreed. Grades are a good starting point for understanding how well your listings are set up for SEO on Etsy. They don't indicate how well a listing has performed or is performing, or how well it could perform in the future. There's so many more factors that go into that. We're just looking at how well SEO has been applied per Etsy's recommendations and what we've seen as far as how their algorithm works.
Yes.
So you could have the listing set up like the best in the world, but if your photo doesn't compare to any of the other ones on the page that are showing up in search results, you're not going to get clicks for that listing. If your pricing is way off, you might not get sales on that listing. There's so many other factors that go into it than just the letter grade and how the SEO has been applied to your listing.
Yeah, and remember too, again, I won't spend too much time belaboring this, but remember too that we're not telling you if you've chosen the right keywords. We're telling you if you've applied those keywords well in the way that we know Etsy likes to see things structured. But, maybe you're selling a birdhouse and you've chosen to put
dog bowls.
Yeah, dog bowls as your keyword. You might have applied it really well, but you're not selling dog bowls. You're selling a birdhouse. So it's probably not going to perform well, because when people see that listing come back in a dog bowl search and they realize it's a birdhouse, they're going to be,
what the heck?
Yeah, that's no bueno. So, so we're telling you with that grade how well you've applied your keywords. But again, that research, figuring out which keywords are right for you, that's going to take, my favorite word of the day, some noodling on your part.
All right, so another question. What do I do about a keyword that's longer than 20 characters and won't fit in my tags?
Okay, so
you can't use it.
Yeah,
you can't use
that's
it.
it.
You throw it out the window. You're done. Next.
I don't
Give
care
up.
if you see other people using keywords that are longer than 20 characters. For you, it is off limits. So we answered this question in so many places, but if we're doing a top questions for 2020, top 5 questions for 2020 jam, then it cannot not be included, because I get this question probably 2 or 3 times a day in the inbox and in other places as well. So, if you have a keyword that's over 20 characters, it's not a big deal. You're just going to break it up across a couple of tags, and you're going to do that without skipping words or without changing word order. So let's say my favorite keyword example, silver starfish necklace. It'll fit in your title. If you go down to put it into your tags, you're like, oh no. You could do silver and starfish necklace. You could do silver starfish and necklace. You just don't want to skip words or change word order. And as long as you do that, Etsy is going to see it as a match for that longer search. So especially for your focus keywords, which are the keywords that are matched exactly in your title and tags, you want to make sure that when you split up that keyword that you've not skipped words or changed the order, so that Etsy's algorithm knows and sees it as a keyword. You're like indicating that you're extremely relevant for that particular keyword. So just to come full circle with that, again, if you have a keyword that's longer than 20 characters, you're just going to break it up across a couple tags, and you're going to do that without skipping words or changing word order. And if you do that, you're going to be good to go. Does anybody else have any different way of explaining? I think that's my best way of explaining it, but yeah. No? All right. Awesome.
Yeah, this is a very good way of explaining
that. So just before I wrap this up, I do want to say that if your question wasn't answered in this top 5 questions jam, please just feel free to reach out to us. Again, I know I mentioned this earlier. You can jump into a Q&A. You can also reach out to us at success@marmalead.com in our inbox. We'll be happy to answer your questions there. We just want to make sure that you know that if you have a question, there are multiple avenues for you to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help get you on your way.